Hello, welcome to the Living in Salida podcast, a podcast that offers insights into the charm and reality of living, working, and playing in the small mountain town of Salida, Colorado. I'm your host, Monica McCarthy, a realtor that specializes in buying and selling in the Salida, Colorado area. In addition to helping people buy and sell property here, I love connecting with the wonderful people of our community, learning about their experiences in our town, and sharing these little slices of life in Salida with you. Today we're talking about one of the ways people can make living in Salida happen, which is building a home here. So if you're eyeing this area as a potential place to build your dream home or already live here and don't know where to start to build your home, listen up. With me today is Andrew Bascue, Chief Welcome Home Officer with Porch Light Builders. That's what it says on your... You're also the owner and founder, right?
That was the title they gave me.
Okay, there you go. So Porch Light Builders is based in Salida, Colorado, and crafts high-end custom mountain homes for Chaffee County. With over 12 years of home building experience, Andrew started Porch Light last year and aims to serve his clients as a guide throughout the entire home building process.
Thank you.
Did I get that right, Andrew?
That was an awesome intro.
Perfect. Okay, well, thanks for joining us. So I'll start. We'll talk about building homes. So we're going to get kind of specific on, tips for building a home and what to look for and all of that. But first, we're going to talk about you. So how did you end up in Salida? What's your origin story?
Oh, I first came to the Arkansas Valley in 2001.
Okay.
I had a good friend that went to Western, and I came to visit him. I flew to Denver and got a car and drove out. I was in college, and when I came over Trout Creek Pass, everybody knows that view when you're coming down into Johnson Village and you see the valley for the first time. But everybody has that story, except for people who were born here. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. But then when you're driving back, I have a lot of videos of that shot too.
Oh my gosh.
Just like, oh.
And I was just blown away. I was just like, oh my gosh, there's a place like this in this country. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And and then it was, a lifelong sort of in the back of my head that would be an amazing place to live. My wife and I made it a reality back in 2018.
Okay.
I had been a builder up in the Front Range after a couple different careers. One in environmental science. I actually worked for the EPA in Manhattan for 3 years.
Oh, wow. Different lifestyle, I would imagine.
Yeah. And then followed my passion to go rock climbing around the world. Lived in Chile for 4 years and climbed in Torres del Paine down in Patagonia.
Wow.
And when we moved back to the States, I just didn't want to go back into an office job or into, the restaurant world, and kind of followed my passion and calling to go back into construction.
Oh, okay.
If I were a plumber, I would be a fourth generation plumber. It's been...
Oh, okay. So you grew up with that then?
I grew up on job sites and...
Okay.
Yeah. And learned all the trades as a teenager. And when we came back from Chile, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back into contracting. And
okay.
I was in the Boulder market at the time and went from, kind of smaller renovation projects to bigger... high-end custom homes pretty quickly.
Okay.
And then we moved down here, and I opened an office for a company called Hammerwell worked for them for 5 years, and finally just decided I needed that authenticity of going to work for myself again.
Sure.
and really developing those client relationships. I felt like that was kind of lacking working for a bigger company.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, in between work, we have an 8-year-old at school, and the schools here are amazing. Mountain biking, the river, just the fact that we live in a place where we are at 7,000 feet here recording this.
Yeah.
And we can look out the window to 14,000 feet.
Yeah.
And the vertical relief of Chaffee County is just astounding.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way of putting it.
And I think that's, back in 2001, that's, I think, what just blew me away is driving down 285 on my way, to head to Gunny, just driving past Mount Princeton and...
Yeah, those cool peaks over there. Yeah.
Yeah, Chalk Creek, just the relief of that valley and how steep it is. And I just was like, wow, this place is... amazing.
Yeah. We live in a magical little valley.
We do. It's so special.
It really is.
Yeah. Somehow we went 7 years in Salida without a raft, but we just got a raft this.
Oh, good for you. You entered the raft world. I still haven't done
Finally
that
entered
yet.
the world. Yeah.
I appreciate it from afar. I know there's only so much time for all the recreational activities, you know.
I know.
You could recreate full time here.
Oh, absolutely.
So I wish I could some days.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I just sold my kayak this year because I was like, I there's so many things to do. I don't have time to do
Yeah.
all of these things.
Totally.
And yeah, in a raft, honestly, is a little bit more of a friendly way, family-friendly way
That's true. Yeah.
to float and beat the heat and
Totally
be social.
Yeah. So you can like get a group of friends that go. I have friends that do that, and that sounds also magical that we have such access to that, and
Yeah.
so many beautiful places to do that. Well, yeah. So I guess. Yeah, we've established that sled is amazing. So if you're wanting to explore out here a little bit, there's also lots of swaths of land to do that. What were you gonna say?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like, you know, Salada's an amazing place, but relatively untouched compared to other places in the state or really kind of the Intermountain West that have all the things that we have.
Yeah.
You know, there's obviously it's a contentious issue. I know, you know, you interviewed Chaffee Housing Authority folks, and you know, we know that mountain communities affordability is a huge problem. We have
Totally. Yeah.
real estate generally is tough in the mountains, but what I think is really interesting about Salida is that it has the mix of all that stuff that people, Colorado type people, want. And yet there's still a lot of land available to build on,
Yeah.
you know, out and about. And I think that's where custom home building really kind of should take place. You know, coming from an environmental background, I always feel like, you know, infill, in town, you know, those types of places are places where we want to concentrate more of the affordable housing and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of this vacant land that we have all around the county is perfect for custom home building, for people who want to come to a retreat, people who want a second home, you know, people who maybe have gotten to that point in their career where they're ready to build that thing they've always been dreaming of. And probably more so than most of the other places in the state that have what we have, because it's kind of not quite blown up yet. And that's arguable.
Sure,
we talked to you about growing up. Like,
totally, yeah. If you talk to somebody who grew up here, yeah, exactly. And you know, I know we're trying to grow responsibly here, and that's also, you know, a part of it. And there are people that still want to find places to live here, and so, you know, I think that's where both of our work comes into place of, you know, offering that to people. And I always say, when you come here, you know, contribute in a positive way. And it sounds like you definitely did that. You know, you're helping people build custom homes. So I guess talk a little bit more about Porch Light and how you work with people here.
Well, you know, when I was dreaming of launching my own construction company again, because I had my own construction company on the Front Range.
Okay.
And I really didn't want to fall into the trap of naming my company after myself, because for one thing, Bascue is kind of hard to pronounce if you haven't heard it pronounced before.
Yeah.
But also, you know, I wanted something that maybe could perhaps have a legacy, right? And so naming it, having like a name behind it that isn't tied to someone's last name, opens up that possibility. And so then thinking like, well, you know, okay, we can't just name it like, you know, Ridgeline or Monarch or Valley, or, you know, it's like, what is it really that I want to do? And I think the thing I love the most about building for people is the ability to kind of welcome them home into that space that I've built for them. And I couldn't think of anything that was more calling to that than like the porch light. Like, you know, you leave that light on, and, you know, if you were out late, or say, you know, you're coming home from being away, when you come home and that light's on, you just feel like you have been welcomed home. And so that's where they came from.
Yeah, I like that. Nice little visual symbol there, really.
Yeah. Some symbolism maybe. and then, it's kind of a pretty thing to like draw a little porch light or whatever. So,
Nice.
but yeah, I think, I grew up in a family of contractors. I grew up in a home that was being built. My dad, my brother, and I built the house that my parents still live in
Oh,
today.
wow.
And so I know what it's like to be a homeowner and have something being built, either
Okay.
around you as a major renovation or to have a custom home being built.
Okay.
And I felt like what was lacking from working for bigger companies was just really that client touch,
Okay.
and being able to put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're building for,
Mm.
anticipating, kind of what their questions might be or what their fears are.
Oh, okay.
Because it's scary. It's a huge investment. You're putting a ton of trust into a company or a person to build something for you the way that you've asked them to.
Sure. Yeah.
You've probably dreamed about it for years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, rather than a burden, it feels like a blessing to take that on from people sometimes.
Okay.
Like you're carrying this forward for them.
Yeah.
And anyway, yeah, that's just I love that part of it.
Okay.
And I think for a lot of builders who've been in the game a long time, like, they're like, oh, I'm never gonna work for a client. I'm gonna never work for an architect. I'm just gonna do spec homes because I'm gonna eliminate that entire piece of
Oh,
drama.
sure. There's a lot of emotions.
A lot of
There's a
emotions.
lot of emotions in building homes and buying homes, and yeah, I mean, your place to live. It's
Yeah.
almost impossible to not have some sort of emotional reaction throughout the process. For
Yeah.
most people, I would guess.
For most people, yeah. Well, and what I'll say is like for the people that I want to work for, I want to work for
Okay.
people who really value this space.
Sure, that they're putting thought and energy into it and it
Yes.
matters to them. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not just a house. Yeah.
exactly. And so, I guess, for folks who maybe don't have that kind of attachment to home,
Oh, okay.
you know, they may be fine buying a spec home and being, okay with something that's a little bit less custom. But if you want something like tailored to you
Mm-hmm.
with your monogram on it, if you will,
Okay.
because it's special to you, that's who those are the clients I
Those are the
tend to
clients.
gravitate toward and who tend to gravitate towards me as well.
Okay. Because you take quite a bit of time to sit down with them and help them realize that vision, right?
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge. Yeah. And so, it starts with finding that lot, and that's where you come in, and realtors like you that are like, really also very client focused and client oriented. If someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I want a lot," your job is to try to understand, well, what is it about? What are they trying to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish with this, right?
Totally.
And so
Yeah.
you get them out on the land, but then the next step is, well, okay, so this is just the earth. Like, where
Totally.
do you
Yeah.
go
What are
from
you gonna do
here?
with this? I know. Yeah. Because that exactly. We talk about the location. We talk about even topography and some people really want to be next to the trees and some people don't. And how close are you to town and so yeah, kind of figuring all of that and then what's available and can you get what you want for that for the price point that you're in
Right.
and then do the covenants of that community match what you want to do and kind of like figuring all of that part out. But then the actual house itself, that's where you come in on, does this piece of land, is it big enough? Does it have the right topography? Talk a little bit more about that. When somebody's looking for a piece of land, so maybe they've already bought it or they're about, hopefully before they buy it, talking to you, what do you go over with them to help them make that decision?
Yeah, hopefully before they buy it.
Yeah.
The best scenario is someone who has an idea of what they want to live
Mm-hmm.
in house-wise, because that kind of helps. It helps decide whether or not that sort of house would fit on the topography and the shape and size of the land.
Okay.
So that's really helpful. But I think, going into any vacant lot purchase, you need to understand that you need to bring infrastructure in.
Sure.
You need water, and then you need to dispose of that water. So you're going to have a septic system and a well.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to bring power in perhaps you're going to have to have a propane tank if that's, kind of part of your ethos of the way you want to live and heat and cool your house. Um, and if in some cases, those lots are so far afield that, it can be tens of thousands of dollars to run an electric line in. And so perhaps at that point, you need to consider the tens of thousands of dollars that go into an off-grid solar house. And is that something you're even interested in? Because there's maintenance and upkeep, and there's some tech savvy that has to go into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And some people gobble that up. And
Absolutely.
other people run for the hills.
Totally.
Like, no, thank you. And so just kind of coming at it from that perspective to start with is really important.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important to note, so a lot of people don't realize this if you're not familiar with our area. I mean, if you're on city utilities and the city grid, and you don't have to go far before you start needing septic and well, which is what he's talking about. So I think a lot of people don't even realize, because I talk to people about septic and well in their home buying process, and some people are like, wait, what do I do with that? And, we can get over that,
Sure.
that initial concern, but I just think it's important to understand that unless you're getting a lot within the city limits, you're going to be on well and septic. And it's common and absolutely doable, but it matters in terms of where it's located, and is there enough space in your the land that you're buying to put those in,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, and you have the opportunity to explain to them, like, hey, like, this is, maybe a quarter or half an acre lot in a subdivision that has utilities brought to the lot line.
Absolutely, yeah.
That you just basically plug into.
Yeah.
Versus some other piece of land that's far afield out in the hills, and but it's 2 to 3 acres. Why are the prices of those lots somewhat similar? And a lot of that has to do with the infrastructure cost.
Absolutely.
Proximity to towns, paved roads, all the other things. And so there's so much to consider.
There really is. Yeah.
And you understanding what that client is looking for is hugely important to a conversation that I might have with them, because you've kind of already vetted that. You've already qualified them for, do they want to live in town or out of town? And then we can go over what does it cost to just the basic infrastructure stuff.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's obviously the building cost.
Yeah.
What does a house cost? And then ideally helping them plug that into their overall decision tree and spreadsheet of whether or not it makes sense to invest in a specific lot or not.
Okay. So I know people listening probably want me to have you answer that question of how much does it cost to build.
Totally.
Give us your answer.
Yeah, you want me to touch the third rail.
What'd you say?
You want me to touch the third rail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No.
It can be
as best you can. Yeah.
It can be all over the place.
Okay.
I actually have a blog article that talks about, I think it's called "What's in a Number," and how big of a pitfall that can be to talk about, like, how much does something cost without having a plan, or even if you do have a set of plans, but just looking at it on a broad basis. There's a huge swing, it can be anywhere from $400 to $600 per square foot. It can be higher than that, depending on the complexity of the project, depending on the fit and finish of the house. So, things like countertops and, what sorts of door hardware do you want? And, it goes on and on and on. Having a really high-end architect on a high-end house, you're going to swing higher on that range that I had mentioned. Whereas, I kind of take more of a design build approach, where we're going to look at it from a constructability standpoint, and we're going to kind of try to keep things as reasonable as possible.
Okay.
And so ideally I'm more in the middle to the lower end of that range, but it can be very, very misleading to just come out of the,
I build houses for this amount. Yeah.
$400 a square foot all day long. Like,
sure. There's so many variables.
No, you can't sign a contract on something like that,
Yeah.
And certain houses are simpler than others. Form factor is basically how squarish is the house.
Okay.
Versus how complicated is the house.
Okay.
I think there's a kind of a general sort of metric out there that every corner that you add adds around $20,000 to the cost of the house.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So but corners are beautiful. varied roof lines are beautiful. So,
Mm-hmm.
you have to incorporate some architecture.
Yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, it's very complicated to just say, what does it cost to build a house
sure.
today? Yeah,
But they can chat with you a little bit more about their specific vision. And
they can. And, precedent images are huge. Show me something that you really like,
okay.
you know, and can we approach that in a reasonable way, or is that just such a, you know, really bespoke architectural element that we
Mm,
have to invest a lot into
sure.
into getting there? And that kind of gives me a sense on the front end, just like you get a sense on the front end of, what they're looking for, how much they want to spend, and,
Yeah.
those sort of, preferences.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, and does that style fit here? Because we're dealing with a lot of people want passive solar. We're dealing with the orientation of the home. We get a
sure.
lot of sunlight here, which is great. And also, maybe you don't need those gigantic windows, even though you want to have great mountain views. I had a friend that built a house a few years ago, and she kind of had this like California beach house view in her mind. And then they realized, heating that house with those huge windows, and it was a variable that you don't have to worry about in California that you do
You
here when you're
do.
buying it. It was a very, in the mountains home. So they ended up finding a very beautiful in between. But it was a consideration that I don't think she realized when she was envisioning her dream home. And I think that's important for people to understand is, does that translate to the climate here and to the elevation of the lot you're choosing. There are places close to the mountains that are close to 8,000 feet or more, accessibility. It all comes into play, right?
All of those factors come into play.
So
Absolutely,
like how
yeah.
hard is it to dig a driveway out to get you there, and is it going to be a steep driveway and all of that. So
Yeah.
and that matters in terms of resale value of the home. If it's your forever home, that's one thing, but if you're wanting to sell in like 5 to 10 years, making extreme choices might not be a good thing for resale.
Right.
So just off the top of my head, some ideas I had on that. So it sounds like you were able to help people, you know, tease those out, maybe give a little bit of realistic insight into the reality of bringing their vision to life, or even helping them develop their vision. Like I talk to people who just want to live here and maybe they don't even know what they want to build yet,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
because you work with them to help create from the very beginning of it
From
as
the
well.
very beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, ideally I'm working with them when they're at the point where they're deciding on a lot.
Okay.
And they maybe have seen a couple pieces of architecture that are just like, oh, I just love this architectural style. And just
Mm-hmm.
start there and then kind of develop that vision. And I have architects that I work with who are just amazingly talented people, just really inspiring visionary people who also understand, approaching great architecture from a perspective of simple form factor to
Okay.
keep those numbers of corners down and those
Okay.
extra $20,000 at a minimum,
Yeah.
and yet still deliver something that is really impressive to come
Okay.
home to every day and feel like it's, like this is yours and it's a unique piece of architecture as well as a well-fit, super quality home.
Yeah.
And so, developing that vision is part of it. And I think, you mentioned the glass house. I built a house along the river several years ago, and it is really challenging to heat and cool for the homeowners. And so, you know, that is something that I just really want to make sure people understand at the beginning.
Mm.
If they're willing to accept that, then okay, that's great. But I just feel like people need to know that certain kinds of architecture are going to be really challenging to
Sure.
live in,
Yeah.
and don't forget you have to live in it. It
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
look
not just
good
a
when you drive
beautiful
up
picture.
to it,
Yeah.
right?
I know, yeah, you want to not
So,
be freezing when you're looking at your gorgeous mountain views in the
sure.
wintertime. And,
Yeah.
and then probably helping them decide what kind of heating system, and do you want to couple that with wood burning stove, and you have this gorgeous centerpiece of a fireplace, but like tactically, does that make sense for your goals of the home? And, there's just a lot of decisions. So,
Yeah. Do you want to take it to like full certified passive solar, which I can do,
okay.
or passive home, not passive solar? Do you want to just have a really good high quality home that heats and cools efficiently and feels
Mm,
amazing every time you step in the door and wake up in the morning?
yeah.
Do you want to sort of, brush those aside somewhat to achieve an architectural vision?
Okay.
We can kind of take it in a lot of different directions, but I'm most interested in the former, in something that just feels amazing when you walk in.
Yeah, that
It's
you
just
love it. Yeah.
it's cool in the summer.
Yeah.
It's warm and comforting in the wintertime. It's just really agreeable to the human system.
Absolutely. Which actually, I think it's important to point out. So many of our mountain homes do not have air conditioning here.
Yeah.
Because of, if you have a well-made home, you can open your windows at night in the summer, and you really would only need it like 2 months out of the year here.
Yeah.
But during those 2 months, that's what you do. I do that at my house, and it is nice. I actually have become somebody who doesn't like AC because I don't like the way it feels on my body. I recently
I heard someone describe it as the feeling of being refrigerated.
That's so funny. I went back home to Texas, and they absolutely have to have AC. So it's just mind blowing to think you're in a place where you don't need it. And yeah, my skin doesn't even like it anymore. So I just think it's one of those things that when you don't live here, it's hard to comprehend building a home that you don't need AC. Now there are some two-story. I guess, can you talk to me about any possibilities where they would want to put air conditioning in there?
I can, but like let's zoom out. Like let's look at the world we live in today.
Mm,
Let's look at how much snow we did not get this winter.
sure. Yeah.
And if you can afford, or if you can reduce the amount of energy that you use to heat and cool your house, you are ideally helping to maybe not move the needle in a positive direction, but at least not move it in a more negative direction.
Sure. Not add to that.
Not add to that. We sit here as it's, forecast to be 95 degrees today and 100 on the front range, I mean, I just have always found it so interesting that human beings are incredibly intelligent in terms of being able to come up with technical solutions to Mother Nature's problems.
Mm-hmm.
But the heating and cooling problem is super interesting because essentially what we're doing is we're modulating our interior environment by just heating our exterior environment even more than it already is. Because you have to burn something to make heat in your house.
Yeah.
Like you have a propane boiler, you're burning propane. If you have an electric system, obviously electricity doesn't come at zero energy cost.
Sure.
And then cooling comes at an energy cost as well. And that energy has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
In the perfect world, you'd be able to have something that is, called net zero. You could put solar panels on your roof, and then essentially your home is generating the energy it takes to heat and cool itself.
Mm-hmm.
The other methodology is a passive home, whereby essentially you do use energy, but the amount of energy that's used is extremely minimal.
Okay.
And so, kind of applying those methodologies to houses is just it's a fun exercise for someone like me.
Okay.
But it's a wonderful house to live in.
Yeah.
Fewer heating and cooling systems means the house is quieter.
Oh, okay.
You don't have fans running all the time. Air conditioning tends to be kind of noisy. You're moving air around all the time.
Yeah.
But back to answer your question, yes, a two-story home is a little bit more challenging because heat rises within the home.
Sure.
But with the right amount of insulation, the right type of wall, roof, and floor assemblies, so the way that we build those things, we can mitigate against that effect that the second story is going to be a little warmer than the first story.
Okay.
The state of construction methodology and the materials we have available today is such that we can design a really efficient home and build it given almost kind of any design you might want. But I would say generally a ranch is going to be a little less energy intensive. Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And
And not to
ranches,
mention
a
it
lot of
kind
people
of
like those.
lays low in the land,
Mm-hmm.
kind of fits in, if you wanted something in the mountains, in the hills, that was sort of more under the radar and a little less, I don't know, noticeable from a
Obtrusive, yeah.
Oh, thanks for using that word. Yeah, I was trying to figure
I
out
knew
how to
what word
not
you were trying to
say
use.
it.
Well,
Right. Yeah. And if you want something like that, then a ranch home is going to be your better bet in
sure,
that
yeah.
sense. But
And there are a lot of people who don't like stairs after a certain age, so ranch
there's that
style
too.
homes tend to be more sought after. So
Sure.
just from a selling standpoint
Sure.
over
Yeah.
here, but obviously choose the home that works for you and the land that you want to buy. But well, any other tips for somebody who is considering building their home out here? Maybe they just started their search, still trying to decide if they want to come out here, or maybe they're already here. But if you're thinking of building, what else should people consider?
What I would say is that recently we had a land use code change, and
Okay.
it's a bit more onerous than the previous code.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would kind of put out there that building in Chaffee County is a lot more friendly than some other places in the state.
Okay.
The building department is great. Um, they work really hard. They are a great resource, at
Mm-hmm.
least for me, maybe not for all builders, but they've always been wonderful to work with from where I sit.
Okay. That's great
Um,
to know.
Zoning has gotten a little more challenging, but I wouldn't say a whole lot more onerous.
Okay.
Some of the changes that have come through with the land use code specific to like the fire mitigation and sort of the fire safety stuff does drive costs up a bit more than they used to be.
Okay.
Certain requirements for driveway lengths and,
Okay.
defensible space around your house, those sorts of things. So
Okay.
there are some additional costs there that didn't exist previous to the new land use code, but generally I would say it's a very friendly place to build,
Okay.
from that perspective. So
I think that's important for people to recognize. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
yeah,
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to. The land use code did change last year for Chaffee County. And so, yeah, I think that's something we're not going to get too granular on because it's complex,
super
but just,
complex. Yeah.
but there's considerations. And then so whenever you're building or trying to purchase a property, it is important to look at that as well as part of the due diligence, which I remind you of if you
Sure.
were purchasing a lot through me, to make sure that it aligns.
Yeah, and then the other piece is the HOA. Think about that as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
There's kind of um, a broad spectrum of different HOAs and their boards, and their boards change over time.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely want to understand those covenants and kind of what goes into that. There are some architectural requirements in certain HOAs where they are extremely prescriptive about what they need to see,
Oh, okay.
certain square footage of stone on the facade, or, specific colors and colorways and ranges.
Okay.
So understanding that is important, but probably more impactful is just, lot lines and building envelopes and things like that you would be able to provide. Um, when that buyer is looking at a lot, and if not, I can pull it off the assessor's site really easily as well.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I just think it's a wonderful place to be, a wonderful place to live, a wonderful place to visit,
Yeah.
and like you said, giving back as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a very special place, both community and just the abundant outdoor opportunities we have. So,
Yeah.
we're fortunate to be here. And if you're looking to build here as well, then reach out to me if you're looking for the land, and
Yeah,
Andrew if you're
totally.
looking to build.
Yeah, check my website. I've got a great blog and a Q&A section that talks about some of this stuff. There's a pamphlet on there that you can download about what to look for with land, and that website is Porch Light Builders with an S.
Okay.
.com.
Porch Light Builders with an S, and I'll have that in the show notes as well. But yeah, no, I was looking at that, and you have some good insights for people to know that, considerations that you might not realize when you're first purchasing a lot or thinking to build. So thanks for being a resource on that and for all that you do for our community.
Thanks for everything you share.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, like I've been reviewing the podcast and listening to back episodes.
Oh,
And you've
yeah, nice. Thank you.
interviewed some super amazing people, talking about what it was like in the 80s
I
and
know, I know.
so many cool things. So good work on that.
Oh, thank you. There's some cool stories in this town. I know. I want to interview some more people who've been here for a while. So, well, perfect. Well, again, I'm Monica McCarthy, a realtor who specializes in Salida and surrounding areas. If you're interested in connecting with me, whether it's to help you buy or sell a home here or about being on this podcast this season, all of my contact info is in the show notes. And if you like this podcast and found the information valuable, please share it with a friend. You can learn more about Salida, Colorado and the real estate market here on my YouTube channel, Living in Salida, Colorado. Thank you so much for listening and take care.